Let's pay attention. All I want is when he calls in, we'll ask him, and then if you can be ready to type that and put it up.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's fine how it is, because it's a daily show. People know me and so on. Just.
I have farther down the rabbit hole if you want to come up with black with that.
Yeah, come up with black with that, and then I'll introduce it, and then Dyandria and I will start talking.
Okay, going to black, 20 seconds.
Thank you. Just keep an eye on the telephone.
Are you going to put the phone number out there so other people call or no?
No, it's not live.
Oh, it's not live.
Right. You're only live. He's just calling in. Hi, this is Paula, Gloria, and this show is called Farther Down the Rabbit Hole. On this show, we like to go into topics a little more deeply, and I'm known for mixing spirituality and politics. And sometimes, and often, I can offend people in either category, but I keep persisting on because I feel that both of them need each other. So today, I'm happy to have with me a guest who I've been honored to have on my show before, and that's Dyandria. Thank you for joining me, Dyandria.
Oh, thank you for having me. I love being on your show.
Yeah, the reason I love having you on my show is I think Gloria Messer, who's in the control room right now, inspired what I feel is one of the most important public access shows that's ever happened, and that was the last time you were with your daughter. And you told me that the man that was interviewing you didn't even know your case. Could you explain how that came about? Because I've posted it on the internet.
Well, it happened that that particular day was January 23rd of 2001, and on that particular day, the New York Post had done a whole page article on my story. So I had been in and out of the studio, preparing for programs of mine. I had so-called kidnapped my daughter. I didn't kidnap my daughter, but that's what the headline stated. She was incarcerated in the system, and the order lapsed, so she wasn't legally binding in the system any longer. So I just picked her up from school.
You just picked up your daughter.
And so a month later, it was about 5 weeks later, we made the newspapers. And Gloria, there was a gentleman by the name of Arthur English who was a producer here at that time, and he was just starting a show, and she said, would you like to do a real news story? Because these people my daughter and myself were in the news today, that day.
And that's how you got it.
So he quickly read the article, and so he'd have a little feel of what was going on. So he was new at it, and never met me before, never met my daughter.
Yeah, well anyway, I've posted it on the internet. Did Dyandria really kidnap her own daughter?
Yeah.
So I encourage you to take a look at that show, and we'll continue going on. Do we have a caller with us yet? No. What I'm expecting is a man to be calling in from California, and he's going to be talking about the whole situation around raw milk, and it's really fascinating. And what I admire about you is your good sense to take care of yourself. Because you once told me you wouldn't put anything on your skin that you wouldn't eat. And I think that in these times to come, when there's more pressure and more challenges, God knows how many you've been through with the court system, and in order to survive and to get your needs met, like in your case, your need as a mother to be reunited with your daughter, we have to use common sense. And so I became very interested in this raw milk thing very recently. And what I'm hoping is when a man calls in from California who has been calling to attention many facts that have been buried for a long time, I'm hoping we can kind of go farther down the rabbit hole to greater self-empowerment. That's the idea of what I'm hoping. But I don't know if is there anyone calling in yet? No. You can talk to me from the control room.
Would you like to call him right now?
No, because I don't know. Okay, don't worry then. Well, just feel free to make comments or interrupt, because public access is all about people supporting each other. It's not about money. You don't pay people to come here and be in the control room and do the cameras. And I kind of like a transparent show. So Dean or Gloria, if any of you in the control room are inspired to say anything, please do.
I think we might have lost your caller.
Oh, you mean it was there and then he drifted away?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, keep an eye on it, because I told him to keep persisting. I always tell people, see, we can't call out of these studios, and we don't hear the ring. We only see a light. So I say keep being persistent, so he may call back. But in any case, I'll review the argument. When you take a natural substance like, and then, okay, before I review it, the reason I'm interested in raw milk is there's something called codex. And codex means that what special interests do to control pharmaceuticals, we're very aware of that. They're also interested in controlling the food. And one of these documentaries I saw just in the last few days indicates that it was a man who went through the Nuremberg trials, was found guilty, went to jail, and after he got out of jail, he said, oh, I know how to continue with my mission, and that is control food. So something like milk, which is nature's most precious substance, you know, it's what connects an older generation to a younger, the older nourishes the younger. In India, the cow is revered as an expression of the Divine Mother, or the balance of nature. And if you take milk, so any kind of manipulation that's going to be done with the food, that means you have to buy the seeds from Monsanto, you have to buy the antibiotics, all of the things that they're going to deem correct to be in our food. The fragile situation with milk will highlight it. In other words, when you boil milk to pasteurize it, everybody grows up thinking this is a great thing to do because you get rid of germs. And you know, when milk can spoil, you're going to ensure longevity and better health. But in truth, when you boil the milk, you break down the structure, and that means that milk that used to sour never sours, it rots. So there's been more problems from pasteurized milk than from raw milk.
Where can people purchase raw milk, or can people purchase raw
There's
milk?
another interesting thing. It's very difficult to purchase raw milk. Once people work it out so they can, the Food and Drug Administration comes swooping down. So one way people have gone around it is to pay $20 or so to own part of a cow. So because you're part owner of a cow, then you are entitled to get it. And with the internet, you can put your order in, you can pick up, it can be fresh, it can, you know, you can really target your market. But this Codex thing is going in a direction, like right now we go into a store, we can get organic milk or pasteurized, you know, regular old hormone-filled milk. But in the future, and this could happen, I believe, as soon as a few years, you are going to be required to have milk with all the hormones that they deem fit. Moreover, you can take food that's had all the nutrition sucked out of it. Like, for example, fluoride, they claim was shown to have an effect on people, that they become complacent. It was used in the concentration camps. It could be deemed you must, well, already actually we have fluoride in our water. To get water without fluoride, you have to go through a lot of gyrations. But you can take, say there's an area in the world that's starving. You will not be allowed to bring them nutritious food. You could only bring them the food that they deem is correct to bring. Mm-hmm. So you can see how spooky it is.
Well, you know, I go to Whole Foods, you know, to do a lot of my organic food shopping, and that place is jam-packed like no other supermarket. People are getting smart.
Yeah.
And they're learning on their own that there's no way to go than organic. And I even use organic shampoos, organic conditioners.
But now there's a problem with organic, because even with the label, I don't know if it's happened yet, but you can have genetically modified food qualify as organic.
Oh,
so they're already going in, and even the label organic. What I like is the Union Square vegetable market, because I can go in there and talk to people who are actually, you know, growing the things, and you get a vibe from the person. You know, some people are really...
But they're using pesticides in those foods.
Yeah, they could, but there's a lot. I mean, there's some things that have more than others, and you know, it's something. It's not so simple. Plus Whole Foods. Here's the story. I was on a long road trip with a business partner of mine in the past. We've always had nice energy together, doing things. We're never lovers, just really. I mean, when you're in there creating something, there's something really special about that relationship. So I hadn't seen him for years. He said he wanted to go to California. I'd never gone cross country. I said, sure, Buck, I'll go with you. And we hit LA and we went to Whole Foods and I got a quart of raw milk for $4, right? It's expensive. They sold raw milk in LA at Whole Foods. And I drank it and I felt wonderful. I felt really, really good. And I thought, wow, this is really interesting. So I went up to, I could get it in Berkeley, in Oakland, came back to New York, went into Whole Foods. You can't get it here. So I started searching around, and now I went to the internet, and now I've got my number in that someone's supposed to send me something. But I don't know what the rules and regulations will be, but I will exert myself to try to find it just because of how good I felt.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
But anyway.
Do you know if they sell it in Florida as well, or is it only California?
I don't know, but what I'm saying is it's kind of like the canaries that the miners used to take down the shafts. And when the canaries keeled over, then they knew the gases were coming up and they better leave the depths of the mine. You know that canary thing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think this raw milk situation is a little bit like the canary for the rest of our food. Like pay attention to what's happening and then to see how upset authority seems to get, because if you have raw milk, it means you start to correct your food production. You don't try to figure out ways to get enormous quantities of something and ship them in an efficient way, that everything is done to make the machinery and quantity work. Instead, you start to work towards quality and nutrition and connection. In a way, connection, because when I go to Union Square, I get a connection with the people I'm buying food from.
Well, you know, speaking of pasteurized, it just amazes me how people in this day and age are buying pasteurized juices.
Right.
They have no conception that they're buying these beautiful oranges that were boiled. How could they possibly think there's anything nutritious about that?
It's the whole mind control thing, and I kind of hate to use the word mind control because we're mind controlled about the word mind controlled, you know.
Yeah.
But it's this persuasive quality, and it's really hard to break out of. I mean, everybody thinks we're the one that's not mind controlled, and that we're the one that 100% of the time we're seeing everything clearly. But I've grown to realize that for me, spiritual practice is all about constantly reevaluating what I believe and seeing if it holds up. But I think generally the word pasteurized is like a seal of approval. It's like this golden label of security that we are now not going to have germs in us.
Yeah, it's ludicrous. And the word pasteurized is not put in tiny print, just like you said. It's people think, oh, that's good, it's pasteurized.
Right, right. So anyway, working with little things like this, we get into big things like you connecting with your daughter. And I'm always saying that now that the internet is happening, that you can have hope that she's watching, and that at every point is a point of possibility to break through that trance, you know. And so the connection between the mother and the daughter, I wouldn't know, I don't have children, but I can admire it from afar. And I know recently my personal challenge was my father, because when I was in India, he was diagnosed with a PSA test that said he had prostate cancer. And he started on a regime that I was skeptical of, but there I was over in India, and so many things were sort of caving in on me. I had a board at my co-op that was trying to kick me out, and you know, all this stuff was happening. And I felt in my heart that I'd let my dad down because I was searching in such an extreme way, deep knowledge, that I didn't even yet have, I had sacrificed the credibility between my own dad to say, hey, is this the path you want to go down? And he eventually took a regime of medication that led to bone cancer. He had cancer scraped off his spine, 6 or 7 or 8 pins put in his spine to prop it up. And then my sister told me when I went back recently that when she was with the doctor, he said that this is the bone cancer that comes from prostate cancer. It's not exactly bone cancer, which I know Michael Elner is kind of HEAL, Health Education AIDS Liaison, has alerted me to these misnomers. That what it is, it's bone cancer caused by the medication. So that after he was in dreadful condition, they'd sent him home. He couldn't barely, stand up or get into the walker. And now, because they did everything they could to him, there was nothing left to do. He stopped taking his medicine, and now he's better. He's better. He's not only with his walker, he's not even using the walker. He's even minimizing using the cane. And he's, without a cane, he's walking around. And this isn't Jesus
so what
walking on.
What he doesn't understand is he's better because he's not taking the medication.
Well,
he doesn't understand that.
Well, see, this is the thing about what we're trying to do at Public Access. Michael told me when I was all convoluted over this, he said, you don't have to go out and become an activist. I said, yes, right, I don't have to be an activist. But I realized, unless we can create a platform of authority, we'll always be told, well, what do you know? You don't have any money, you don't have any success, you don't have any position, you don't have the degrees. How do you explain it's exactly the money, it's exactly the degrees, it's exactly the success that gets into that mind control where people can't see that it's not the cancer, it's the medicine.
Exactly. My recent experience, I was in the hospital, I have a spinal cord injury, and they were giving me steroids, and then they were taking these needles and putting them in my stomach. I asked, a lot of people don't question what they're doing, they just accept it. So I'm questioning, what are you doing? Oh, the steroids, I forget exactly what they could cause, the problems the steroids could cause, but they were giving me...
Diabetes? Was it saying that?
It could have been the diabetes.
Yeah.
And so they're giving me this needle to counteract it, and then they're giving me these painkillers because I was in excruciating pain, and then they were giving me something else. I said, well, what's this? These painkillers we're giving you could cause whatever it was, and this is to counteract it. I said, what am I doing? I told them, everything out. No more steroids, no more this. Stop it.
Right. It takes a lot of courage to do that. I mean, I was 21 when I told my orthopedic surgeon to remove 2 metal rods in my back that were placed in my back when I was 14 for scoliosis. And I was all for it. I didn't want to have a twisted up spine. But upon 3-month meditation course, the relaxation was causing the spine to, sort of find its own natural position. And the metal rods were very irritating. And I was losing faith that my yogic abilities could melt the metal out of my back, So I said, my insurance will expire at 22. So I had to make a quick decision, and I told him to take the rods out. And then I, at 30 years old, found an Alexander teacher and started working with that. But it was hard.
And you're in great shape.
Yeah, well,
that's the whole thing.
But I started at a relatively young age to attend to my body. But the point was, you can't imagine at 21 years old what it's like to argue with the surgeon, because a surgeon is like God. And yet I'm in my body, and I always wondered, why did he operate on me? Why did he re-operate on me with this expensive surgery and it's